Alright, we're going to be looking at the Columbus North or Columbus High School yearbook. Technically became Columbus North High School in the early 70s. I'm going to give it a little history about Columbus. I used to live in the town. I actually moved out in 86. Then I moved to Redditon in around 86 and lived from there from 86 to 96. And then I moved to another state. But if you're going back, I grew up in this town, and we're going to be starting off. And before we start this, going through the yearbooks, I'm going to show you some interesting things. I'm going to give you a history of a little brief history. Now, we were trying to find Jefferson Elementary School yearbook and we couldn't find it. If we find it later on in a different video, we will highlight it. I first went to Jefferson and I was there from kindergarten to second grade, and then I was transferred to Lincoln, and there's no yearbooks for Lincoln, and there's yearbooks for Central. And when I went there, it was Central Junior High School, and then after then I went to Columbus North. Central used to be called Central High School, and it opened either in the early 1900s or the late 1800s, either 1880s or 1890s or the early 1900s. I don't know the approximate date. I'd have to get back with you on that. I thought originally it was built in the 1800s. Some people told me it was built in the 1800s, sometime late 1800s. They had a fire in 1979 when I was going there in 7th grade, and I'll tell you about that briefly. At the Central Junior High School fire, after the fire, and I believe it was I think it was early 79, I believe, January 79, they evacuated the whole school, and then when the kids came back, they did half days. 7th through 8th grade attended from 8 o'clock in the morning until about 12 o'clock noon, and then the 9th graders had to show up at noon and be there from like noon till like 3 o'clock. It was a high school. It was the only high school in Columbus from the early 1900s or the late 1800s till 1956, from what I understand. 1956, and this is where we're going to start our story here about Columbus North High School and the history of Columbus North. And I had to explain everything so people understand. Of course, there have been junior high schools and elementary schools. There's North Side, South Side, Central Junior High School. Now it's called Central Middle School. Everything's called middle school. In 1983, I believe that's when they changed everything from a junior high school to a middle school. And high school now is like 9th grade to 12th grade, and this is nationwide. I believe that's the case. It started in Columbus and it spread all over the country. And like I said, and then in the early 1970s, probably 72 or 73, when they built, and we're going to talk about East High School in a second. In 1956, they built Columbus High School, and Central went from a high school, Central High School, and it turned into a junior high school. And then it became a junior high school from 1956 until later on it became a middle school. In 1972-73, uh, North, of course, was built in 56. It became Columbus North High School, and they had overcrowding at North, and they had to have another high school. So they built it in the early 70s. So some of the students went and transferred over to East High School. And of course, when they brought in kids from ninth grade from the junior high school in 1983 or 1984, they needed that additional space, and they've expanded the school, I believe. Um, they have a seating capacity in the gymnasium. I'm trying to think how big it is. I don't know if it's 6,000 or 9,000, but I know that Seymour High School has a seating capacity of about, I think, 10,000. And we'll talk about Seymour High School in a different video, but we're going to be talking about North. Um, we're going to be focusing on some of the teachers that's been there for years. And I've looked through this yearbook, and we're looking online here right now. This is not through a book, but we wouldn't be able to show it on a book and you'd be able to see it. Like, it's just like we're flipping through the pages, 73 to 74. And I believe this is when they first started as Columbus North, technically Columbus North High School. Now, the one before 1973, and they do have yearbooks, Columbus High School yearbooks, dating back to the early 50s. And we're going to be looking at that here in a second. You know, I have to apologize what it's going to look like. And we're going to be looking at the faculty. We're not going to be looking at the students necessarily, because we're going to be going through some of these yearbooks. And some of these teachers you will see, you'll find out. I'm looking back to see what this one is here. I think I recognize, well, it's probably not. Now, some of these teachers, you got to remember, I've seen some of them started in the early 70s and they were still teaching in the 2000s, like as late as 2010. Dennis Lindsay, who was one of my teachers, started in the early 70s, like 74 or 73. I don't know what his first year is. I think I recognize, I think she's the guidance counselor. She may have been one of the Jim Powell. He became an assistant principal. That may be Jim Powell right there where I got the thing on. I don't know if you can see it. It's the bottom right hand corner. And we're going to try to focus in on there. Let's see. That kind of look, yeah, that's Jim Powell right there. On the bottom right hand corner, that's Jim Powell. And he died a few years ago. He was the assistant principal at North High School. They actually had two assistant principals at the time I was there, and for many years the same ones, same principal, same vice principal. And then they had Bill McKay, who later become the dean of boys. and then he became the principal. This is and he also was the head football coach. Bill McKay was the head football coach at North High School. Later on, Steve Gobert becomes the head football coach. This man was one of. They had many assistant coaches on the football team. Um, Also, Bill Stearman, who was a legendary basketball coach, was there since the early '50s. He was coaching, and he was also driving instructor and in different jobs he had there. Plus, he was the head basketball coach. Coach Bobby Knight mentioned him, and he was the head basketball coach at North High School for years and years. And he didn't stop coaching or teaching there until probably the early 2000s or the late 90s. So he was there for a long, long time. This man here was one of the football coaches. His name is Gene Fotenheimer, and he was the Spanish teacher. And we're going to focus in on here, and it'll make it right here. You'll see. Gene Fotenheimer directs his third year Spanish class. I don't know how long he's been at North, but I know he was there in as late as early as 74. He may have been there 73. I don't know. A lot of these teachers, they'll be there for years and years. I'm going to show you some pictures of teachers that have been there for years. And it actually blows my mind that these teachers would be there that long. This man right here, I had him for art class. This man's name is Dell Patterson. The top left-hand corner, we're going to focus in on it. The guy with the mustache, that's Dell Patterson right here. He's been there since the early 70s, and he was still teaching at North, I think as late as 2010. I don't know if he's still teaching there now or not, but that's a long time. If you're talking about the 80s, 90s, the man's probably been there 30 to 40 years. And most of the teachers, there was like a handful, probably 5 teachers. By 2010, there was at least maybe 5 or 6 teachers that started in the 70s that were still teaching at North, the same location, which is crazy. And having to work with kids all this time. This man right here, I remember seeing him. I never had him as a teacher. I'm trying to think. Yeah, Keith Wellman. He's been there for years. He's been there since and it doesn't look like he's changed a bit. He looks the same. He always looks the same. A lot of the shop teachers look the same. I've seen my mom's yearbook and my dad's yearbook. I tried to find my dad's baseball pictures. I found my mom's baseball pictures in her yearbook in Tennessee. My dad's, he went to Brown County High School in the 1960s. I don't know who that is. It looks kind of like Jim Powell. It's probably not. We're going to go ahead and see. Mark Weber and Bill Zion, I believe, went here. This is now Horn, Coach Horn, he used to play for Bill Stearman, I think maybe back in the 60s or something. I didn't realize he was a coach at Columbus North. He must have been. I wonder if that's a picture. That might be a picture of him the bottom picture of Coach Horn. Bill Stearman was also the head baseball coach at North as well. We're going to try, let's see. Now, Bill Stearman, should it be in the bottom picture? Hopefully. It should show him. Yeah, it's hard to make it out. Now, that's Bill Stearman, the top left-hand corner. That's Coach Stearman. There's another picture of him, the bottom corner. Bill Stearman, Coach Bill Stearman has been there for years. We're not going to look necessarily focusing on the students. We're going to flip through that. We're just going to focus on the teachers. And I'm going to tell you, if I had any of these, because I went there in '84, so I was there in '82 to '84, I believe. Yeah, I graduated in '84. And Debbie Schultz was one of my teachers. I couldn't believe she was still there. What's crazy about this is a lot of these teachers look the same, and they were there when I was going to elementary school. This man right here. Now this was he became the assistant principal. Arthur Taylor, assistant principal, guy with glasses. And Marion Cowan became a dean of girls. And this is Chuck Richardson, dean of boys. He was also the football coach at North, one of the assistant football coaches. He was an Air Force general. I don't know if he was a general when he was in the Air Force when he was one of the teachers at North or not. This is James Powell down here. He was the guidance director. He became the assistant principal later on. Raymond Bradbury. He's been there for years. He's been there for years. And I think the last year he was in there in the 2000s. That man's been there for possibly 40 years. The man next to him, John Hines, he's been there for years. And Edna Howes, I don't know how long she's been there. And there's Bruno Milakovic. I had him for driver's ed. Not an easy guy to get along with. Let's see. Let's look over here and see if there's any teachers I had. Helen Altmeyer, she was the English teacher. The lady on the left-hand side. She's been there for years. And I'm looking at the teachers. Gene Foltenheimer, Gary Freeman's been there for years. I never had any of these. Some of the teachers. Some of the people said that Miss Calhoun looked like Granny on the Beverly Hillbillies. Let's see who. I had this man, W.E. Cockworth. It's spelled Kalkwarf. He's the print teacher. Norman Lewis has been there for years. Let's see. Now here's a picture of Bill McKay. It says here he was a biology teacher. He later became the dean of boys. He was not a good guy at all. He was not an easy guy to get along with. he acted like a police officer. He acted like, you never wanted to go to his office. He was just, I thought the guy was a jerk, if you want my opinion. This guy right here, I had him for history, social studies, Jack Newsbaum. He had a son that played football and baseball and basketball. And he died in, I think, 84. Del Patterson, I had him for art. Here's the picture of Del Patterson, the third one over. Let's see, who else? Now there's Bill Stearman over here on some of these teachers. They've been there for years and years. A lot of those are cooks. All right, well, we're going to go back. Now, that was 74. Now, we're going to kind of fast forward to 84. And you're going to see some of the teachers. I don't know why this went like that. Let's see. I think we clicked the wrong button. And you'll get a pop-up here in a second. And we're going to click off of that. They're trying to get you to buy the book, which are about $70-some. You'll see it in a second. It'll pop up on the screen. They do it every time you check out a book. See, it pop up, it says $79.96. That's how much it cost if you wanted a yearbook through classmates.com, which ain't bad. And this is 84. So you're a graduated. I'm looking right now, and we're going to make a comparison from there to 2009 or 2010. I remember this kid here. I went to school with him. This is John Hildebrand, the guy with shorts with a cowboy hat. There's a guy on the left, and there's the guy right next to him right here is John Hildebrand. And he went to Jefferson with me. I don't know if he went to school at Lincoln or not, but I remember him. I remember when he went to, I don't know if he went to Lincoln, but I know he went with me he went to Jefferson. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we'll go to the teachers section. I'll go back. This guy here was, he was the track coach. This was my homeroom teacher. Um, Coach Weinheimer. Now this guy's been at that school for years. I don't know if he was there in the 70s. I didn't get a chance to look. I'm going to try to see if I can find the team football team picture. They had a really good picture in the yearbook. I don't know if it was the they may not have it. Um, Now there was a girl, a black girl, that was on the cheerleading squad. Her sister went to East. They didn't go to the same school, from what I understand. One of them became a cheerleader at East. The other one became a cheerleader at North. It's the black girl. And my cousin, his sister, I think his half sister, was one of the cheerleaders at North, I believe. That's Eric Robert on the bottom right hand corner, and that's Coach uh, Steve Gobert. He didn't become the head coach until later on. And we're going to go through the faculty's list. Now, you remember when I was telling you, another person is a football coach, and I'm going to tell you, they had several football coaches. Now, these football players right here, I do not believe these are the senior. But this is Gene Fultonheimer, the Spanish teacher, and that's Charles Richardson, General Charles Richardson of the Air Force. Also, Chick Newell, I used to work for him when I worked security. He was a swim coach at North High School. Now, he may not be listed under the faculties list. Now, Mike Palmer or Hildebrand, I don't know. I think it was, I'm getting Mike Palmer and Hildebrand mixed up. Let's see. Yeah, John Hildebrand. He'd always wear that cowboy hat. Mike Palmer, I went to school with him at Lincoln. He played basketball at North. And this is John Hildebrand. Yeah, John. I may have seen Palmer, but it's actually his name is Hildebrand. We go back a long ways. Okay, here's a picture of Coach Bill Stearman on the right-hand corner. Mike Palmer. I don't know if you could see the hand, finger, whatever. That's Mike Palmer right there. I remember this kid here used to go to Hope High School. Chris Barker. He played for Hope High School. We're gonna focus in on this guy right here on the left-hand corner. He took the place of Newsbaum as the social studies teacher. The guy next to him was the PE teacher. And the cheerleaders. And that's Newsbaum's son. He played basketball, the one we just showed you earlier. Coach Bill Stearman coached the and that's the quarterback of the football team, Eric Roberts. That's Newsbaum. And there's Bill Stearman on the left-hand corner. That's Bill Stearman. There's Bill Stearman right there. So he was not only the head basketball coach, he was the head baseball coach at North High School. A lot of people don't know that. They had the best football team, and they had the best basketball team, and probably if they had good basketball and football teams, they probably had the best baseball teams. And I think this is a picture of Gene Fultnummer. He was also a baseball coach there. It's Gene Fultnummer right there. So he was pretty busy doing that. I remember this kid here. I remember I went to school with him, left-hand corner at Central in Lincoln. I don't know how he ended up. I don't know how he ended up over at East. Doesn't make sense to me how he ended up at East. And these are seniors, the kids on the golf team. They had a whole list of let's see. I don't see the faculties. Maybe I have to go on further. Now I had Dennis Steele. He's the machine shop teacher. He was right here. Now I went to school with this kid over here on the right. He was in trying to think what his name was. John Cummins. I don't know if that was his name or that may not be his name. No, John Cummins was the auto shop teacher. That's Dennis Steele, the machine shop teacher. He was still there in 2010 or 2009, and he started in the 70s. He was in the intramurals, one of the clubs. My dad was in intramurals too, as well. That's a guy named Heath. I believe that may be his name. Let's see, what was his name? Maybe I got his name mixed up. Yeah, Jay Heath, that was his name. That was the beginning woodshop teacher, Jay Heath. That's Powell. He was at this point in time, he was the one that's, they might be checking his blood pressure. He was the assistant principal. It's Tina Huddleston. She passed away several years ago. Let's see. Let me go to the... Oh, yeah. I think that's a picture of Eric Roberts. This was when he was in class. That's Eric. Let's see. Wellman's there. Dale Patterson art class. That's Dale Patterson. Dale Patterson. I can recognize him. You know, she's one of my English teachers. Let's see. I never took science. I took biology. I had this right here is a picture of let's see, what was his name? Lewis Russell. Lewis Russell was one of the football coaches at North. Now, I don't know if he's still there or not. I wouldn't be surprised. That's I had him. He was I keep forgetting his name. Bill Stearman was one of the driver's ed teachers. He's got one of those Russian, Slavic names. I forgot what his name was. Solovelik or whatever. Here it is. Here's what it is. It's got the information on Bruno Malakovic. It's like a Russian type name. That's David Horn. He played basketball for Stearman. Looks like he was a driver's ed teacher. So it looked like they had several driver's ed teachers there. All right, now we're going to be looking at the faculty, and we're going to compare. We're not going to go through the entire list from. We're going to go through the 84, but we are not going to go through every yearbook. We're just going to focus on this one and the 2010 one, and just wrap it up. Now, remember, we showed you a picture of Altmeyer. She's been there in the 70s. I don't know. She may have been there in the 60s. I have no idea. We showed you a picture of Ray Bradbury, and he was there in the early 70s. There he is. Chappell's been there for years. He's the biology teacher, Robert Chappell. Let's see. Gene Fotenheimer. I think Ken George is one of the football coaches. Steve Gobert. He was also the science teacher at Central, and he was transferred to North, and he become like health. He may have been a science teacher at North, but he was one of the lead football coaches. And he's a big guy. He played football. I think I see him in the yearbooks in the 60s. He graduated in the late 60s. Steve Gobert did. Let's see. David Horn played basketball for Bill Stearman. John Henderson, he was the electronics teacher, taught electronics at North High School. Let's see who these people are. There's Winford Cockworth, that's how you pronounce his name. I had him for print. Had Dennis Lindsay. He was still there when I looked at the yearbooks. Jim Majors was, I don't know if he was either a guidance counselor or dean of boys at Central Junior High School, and then he was transferred to North High School. You got, at this point in time, Bill McKay was the dean of boys. He later became the principal. Bruno Malakovic, the principal, Leroy Nelson. Larry Nordman, I was trying to get into the building trades. He was the building trades teacher. He took the East and North. He took kids from East High School, and this was a North High School program. He took kids because East didn't have a building trades course facility at East. So he took the kids from East, brought them over to the North, and then they were building homes, houses, whatever. This is Jack Newsbaum. I had him, social studies. Let's look over here on the right-hand corner. I'm going to show you the teachers I had. Dale Patterson. I had him. This is James Powell. He's assistant principal at this point in time. Chuck Richardson. I had him for, it was one of the clubs. He's also football. He taught different classes, but I had him for the Air Club. Anything to do with playing stuff. He was involved in a lot of stuff. Here's Lewis Russell. I had him for history. Davy Schultz was English or reading, one of the classes. I never had Don Robertson. I was in music in 82 and 3 years at Central, Mr. Distel. I never had him as a teacher. Bill Stearman, and he taught several courses and head football coach, basketball coach. Basketball and baseball. Malcolm Stalkup, he was the welding shop teacher. I had him. I had Dennis Steele. He was a metals teacher. The assistant principal, Art Taylor. I had him for homeroom. Rick Weimer. He's been there for years, as well as Keith Wellman. He's been there for years too. I never had those other guys, but I had these other ones. Let's see. Let's see. Now these are the janitorial staff. All these are janitorial staff people. I didn't know any of these people. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're just going to fast forward and go to the 2009, probably 2009 yearbook and see what we find. And this is supposed to be the 2009 yearbook. And this thing's going to pop up in a second. I'll close that out. Now, we're not going to waste any time on this. We'll go to 2009 and then maybe 2010. And in the yearbooks, they usually talk about local and national events they put in there. They talked about 9/11 and one of the, I think the 2002 yearbook for the 2001 yearbook. We're going to fast forward it. I got this through a 3-month thing, membership on theclassmates.com. I was going to show people. I was going to pay for a full year. I was just taking screenshots. And if I wanted to order your books, you can order them. They're actually easier than you think. And you just, I guess you can get a credit card and prepaid credit card and just buy it. Sent to your house. They don't have your books for every year, I don't think. I think I went past the staff. Now, this is what's really crazy about this. This is 2000. I don't know. These are staff. These are people that work at Central North. I mean, the faculty. Now these are new faces, and you may not recognize them. They put this new principal in there later on. I think 2000. They put Bill McKay as a principal. He got DUI. He passed away years ago. So he was drunk, driving under the influence, and I guess they fired him. Here's what's crazy. This is Bill Gobert. This is Stephen Gobert, right here. He's been there for years. Stephen Gobert. That's crazy. That's 2009. That guy's been there since the 80s somewhere. I know he was at Central. He may have been a teacher at North in the early 70s. I don't know, but he was at Central. That was the first time I ever seen him, was at Central. He was one of. He later became a football coach. I'm looking at the other pictures. That's Dale Patterson right there. That man's been there since the 70s, and he's still there. Dale Patterson, art teacher. Let's see if I can find Lindsay, Dennis Lindsay. I'll have to look back to see if he's in there or not. I'm gonna look at the 2010 yearbook and if I can find Dennis Lindsay. I'm gonna see if Stephen Gobert's there. As I said before, we're not going to focus in on too much on the stuff. We're just going to be basically focusing in on uh, the faculty, the teachers, the administration. We're not going to focus in on the students at all. We wouldn't have time to mess with that anyways. We're just looking at the faculty of the schools. Because I think it's more interesting, the faculty part. You could say that they're dedicated because they've been there so long. I don't know if they pay them a lot of money or not. I have no idea. They're doing it for some reason. I don't know if it's because of their love of teaching kids. I just can't believe they would be there that long. Here is the faculty and staff. And see, all these faces, I don't recognize any of them. These are all new teachers. These aren't the teachers I had when I was going there. None of them. I'm going to see if Stephen Gobert there. Stephen Gobert, he's about the only one there. It's crazy. I mean, he was there for years. Stephen Gobert. At this point in time, now here's Dennis Lindsay. So that right there tells me he was still there at on this side over here. We're looking at Dennis Lindsay was there. Let's see. We're looking at Dale Patterson, Stephen Gobert, Dennis Lindsay. Let's see. Rick Weimer. I mean, these guys were there in the 70s. Hell, these guys were there for at least 40 years at North. Now we're going to be going back to 2000, and I'm going to see if we find something, and then we're going to close it out. Or 2000 or 2000, because a lot of these teachers, you'll see them in the 90s. A lot of them are still there in the 90s. But we're going to be looking at 2000, the year 2000, see what we find. I'm going to focus in on that. I'm going to see if that's who I think that is. It kind of looked like Bill McKay. He's got that Bill McKay type of look to him. They started putting computers into the schools. I swear that looks like Bill McKay. I think Bill McKay's in here, and it showed him as a principal. I don't know what year he became the principal. Okay, here's the, I don't know if this is actually the faculty pictures. It might be. Raymond Bradbury. This is 2000. All right, we're going to slide it over. Gene Fodenheimer, Spanish teacher. And I think Dennis Steele was the still there in 2010. Malcolm Stalkup was there in 2000. He was the metal shop dealer. See, Malcolm Stalkup said something here. Let's see what there's anything. David Horn. Let me see. We're focusing on this right here. Norman Lewis. That's another guy that was there for years. Mary Hayes, she passed away. Edmund Nesbajani, he's still there. Look at that. This guy's been there for years. Larry Norman, the building trades, he's still there in 2000. That's a long time. Okay, here's the one. I think this is the one. Dennis Steele right here. Lewis Russell, Social Studies. Debbie Schultz. Lewis Russell. Now I'm going to focus back and let's see what we got here. I'm going to see if I could find McKay. Now he may not be in this picture. I don't see him. Now, if you look at the 2000, now I don't know if Bill Stearman is in this yearbook. He might be in the 1999 or 98 one. But if you go back, and I'm going to go back as far as I can, not too far back. I'm going to go back to 1953. And I'm going to see if I can see Bill Stearman in here. Because he started right off the bat coaching. He was a long-standing coach at Central. At North. Long-standing basketball coach there. He's been a coach there for years. And none of these teachers here I recognize. The only one that's there, and I think he was a coach here teaching in 1953, which is crazy. And I highly doubt any of these teachers are still alive. They might be, but I don't know. A lot of the students probably sent off to Vietnam or died off. We're going to be looking at the faculty, and then we're going to close it out if we don't see Bill Stearman. I thought I saw Mr. Cockwork in there in the late 60s. I think I've seen him on here. It was 50, or yeah, sometime in the 60s. 60s yearbook. And he goes back quite a ways too. Look at that. That's crazy. 1953. That's Bill Stearman. Head coach, basketball coach, right there. Right there. There's at least 2 pictures he was in there. Now, from what I understand, he actually went to North years ago and played basketball. He served in World War II. He was around the same time that they about the basketball team, 1951 Milan basketball champs, starring Gene Hackman. He probably knew him. And he's, like I said, he's been coaching for years. Bill Stearman. So he was coaching in the early 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and the 90s, and all throughout the 90s. That's a long time. Bill Stearman, head baseball coach, North High School. This is before it was. This is before. Well, this is actually, I don't know, this something not adding up right, because I was under the impression that Central was the only high school in town until like the late 50s, but evidently, according to this, because this is the 1953 Columbus, I don't see how it could be called Columbus North High School. It didn't become Columbus North High School until the early 70s when they built Columbus East. Looks like they had a lot of students there. Boy, they crammed a lot of pictures of students in this yearbook. Looks a lot more in this yearbook than the other years. Oh my God, look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 rows. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow. Like there's a lot of students that went there. Yeah, that's another thing. Arvin's Electronics. They made TVs, radios, etc. before the other countries took over the electronics market. Arvin's, and there was another electronics. RCA was one of the biggest companies that were making electronics. Arvin's was one of the top ones in the country, based out of Columbus. I don't know if I went past the faculty or not. If I did, we'll go back. Well, I must have. I went back too far, I guess. I was kind of confused. Some of these pictures I thought they looked like faculty. These kids look a lot older than they are. It's the hairstyles that's what's killing me on this. Where's the faculty picture at? Did they even have a faculty's picture? If not, we'll go back and see if we can find it. It's like looking at a needle in a haystack because I can't tell the faculty pictures between them and the student pictures. I mean, they look exactly alike. Hmm. You got to remember that a lot of the pictures that they took back then of the students um, looked like they were teachers because the students back at that time looked a lot older, and their hairstyles and everything looked like they were teachers because they looked a lot older. I noticed that about a lot of the pictures. I can't really tell the students from the teachers. The students look too old, look really old. I don't think they had a. I don't think they had a section there. But we're gonna go ahead and close this out right now. I just thought it'd be interesting to show this to you. And some of the teachers have been there for a long time. That's basically what this video is about. A lot of the teachers have been in the North High School and probably other schools have dedicated their time to staying at one specific school. I don't know how much they make an hour or make a day or their salary, but there's something that holds them on. I'd be really surprised if Dennis Lindsay, but I wouldn't be too surprised if Dennis Lindsay and Lewis Russell and Dale Patterson is still there at North High School. It wouldn't surprise me that just based on seeing them teaching in the early 70s and then up into 2010, 2009. If they were there that long, they're probably still there now. And this is 2025. I would be really surprised. I mean, if I was a teacher, the most I'd work here would probably be 15, 20 years, and then I'd be out of there. No, these teachers teach there 30, 40, 45, 50 years. And you look at Coach Bill Stearman. If you do the math, I looked up the history, and he was there from the early 50s until the late 90s, I think, till he practically died. He practically died there, and he retired being there from Well, if you're talking about the 60s, 10 years, 60s, 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So that's 40 years right there. Plus, in the 50s, you're talking about 45, almost 50 years at one school. You know, which is crazy. Be a teacher for like 50 some years, 45, 50 years, a teacher at a high school or junior high school, no matter. That's a long time to be a teacher at a I mean, I can understand being a teacher, professor at a college for a long time, but a high school? That's a long time.